and the topic, and then I'll have you just sort of outline the main visa types, and then we can go from there.
Perfect.
I mean, 15 minutes is going to go fast.
Yep. And I think we're live now, so.
Okay. So let's kick this off, huh?
Yeah, I think maybe in 2 minutes.
Okay. Are we just waiting for the go-ahead from Stacy and for people to join? Yes?
Yeah, I think we're just letting people log in.
Okay.
For a couple minutes, yeah.
My camera keeps going kind of dark. I don't understand. Yeah, get the light on a little bit. Okay, so we're just going to start. So I'm Andrea, and this is Ruth, and we are with Berardi Immigration Law. And I've been practicing immigration law for more than 20 years, so a bit younger, but we both specialize in physician immigration. So if you're tuning in, this is about healthcare immigration, sort of an overview and how things are going right now. And we will just keep it as a conversation, and you can post your questions. But I think the main theme for, people might be listening in who have a variety of backgrounds or interests in this topic, or levels of knowledge. But I think the overall sort of purpose of this is to reassure people that all the visa options, all the for international nurses, for physicians, are the same as they ever were. The things that have changed are some of the timelines, some of the travel concerns, some of the processing. But as far as visa types, options, how to go about it, hiring international medical staff or professionsionals, it's still the same visas. It's the same laws. It's just a new administration. We've been here before. And I think the other overarching theme for healthcare immigration has always been why it's so important is when an international medical graduate, IMG, a physician comes into the US to practice, they get certain visa advantages and pathways available to them if they practice in a medically underserved area. And in the US, we have a growing physician shortage, particularly in rural and medically underserved areas. So, these international physicians and nurses really fill that need in a critical way. And it helps them because it gives them sort of this carve-out pathway to the green card. So, it's an important topic at any time. And right now, more so with the growing shortages that we see with our healthcare clients. And but the visa types are the same. So as an intro, Ruth, do you want to sort of talk us through those?
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what you were saying about how important it is to have different immigration options available for physicians. There's actually, I was looking up some stats, and 25% of physicians in the US are IMGs. And another thing, the Association of American Medical College estimated that the US will have a shortage of up to 124,000 physicians by 2034. So it's really important to have these options available. And I know that employers are facing like this great need. So I guess let's get into the options for physicians. The first being the visa
I'm
type
glad you brought up the stats, by the way, because I look at those about once a year, and they're just always big numbers,
Yes.
and it's helpful to give perspective on what the need is. Yeah. So go ahead. How does a physician in particular typically come to the U.S. and work?
Yeah, so generally we see a lot of IMGs come in first for their medical residency or a fellowship. And when they do, they have a J1 visa that grants them entry to participate in those programs. The thing with the J1 is that once they complete the residency or fellowship, they are subject to a 2-year home residency requirement, meaning that they've come here, they've participated in these programs, and then the idea is that they return to their home country for at least 2 years before they can come back and potentially work in the States. In a way to avoid that, there are J waiver options available. One of them in New York State being the Conrad 30 program. This is something that can be applied for. There is a timeline. It's applications are due at the beginning of December, and typically we hear back on whether someone was given one of the 30 spots at the end of March. I know we got notice this last month on some applications we had pending. So that's one option. And there's a few others as well. Andy, did you want to go over those?
Sure. I mean, the other ones fall broadly into the category of the interested government agency. So it could be an HHS, Health and Human Services sponsored waiver. It could be one of the designated programs through the ARC, the Appalachian region, other regional programs. And yeah, I think the sort of important takeaway is that, these doctors are often coming in having already practiced in their home country. So these are working professionals who then come here and have to do a residency again. And they're coming here for the purpose of, filling a need, establishing a career and a practice here. So, getting rid of that 2-year home residency and being able to stay on is very important because they also have some green card pathways available to them. The typical ones based on employment, anyone would, but there's a special green card category for physicians if they show that they have a 5-year commitment to work in a medically underserved area. So, the sooner they can take care of the 2-year home residency requirement and move on to a green card if that's what they want. It's a significant time investment, and those things are taking, a bit longer than they used to, but the time commitments are the time commitments. I mean, for a physician national interest waiver, you got to work the 5 years, and that medically underserved community is getting those people that they need for that amount of time, which is wonderful. Why not do it? So there's also, O1 for extraordinary ability, more in the research or academic capacity usually. But I think, the other great need we see often, and honestly, with healthcare clients, and I know, Ruth, you've run into some of this too, a lot of it is with nurses and has been for a good 15 years, increasingly so. And this is in medically underserved areas and just wherever cities, there really is a nursing shortage. So, Ruth, why don't you talk about how do nurses typically come here from other countries to work and fill that need?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two main visas available to nurses, one being the H-1B, Specialty Occupation Visa, that's granted in 3-year increments. But for a registered nurse, we have to show that they qualify for this visa type and that their position is a specialty occupation, which you prove by showing that they require at least a bachelor's degree. So the important thing when preparing these cases is ensuring that that's a requirement for the employer and that we have proof to support that, meaning that the employee that they're seeking to sponsor works in a unit where a majority, if not all of those nurses, at least have a bachelor's degree in nursing. So that's one route to do. Another visa type is a TN visa. This is available for citizens of Canada or Mexico. For Canadians, it's a really great option because they can apply right at the border. So they can apply at a land port of entry or a pre-clearance airport and get adjudicated right on the spot. One thing to note, though, for those applying at a land port of entry, depending on which port you go to, you may have to schedule an appointment in advance. I also wanted to note that our firm has successfully had cases applied for under TN for nurse practitioners. And, we show that they still have a nursing degree as well as, advanced degree, and that they are working under the supervision of a physician, and we've been successful in processing those cases as well. And then there is a GC route to be mindful of for nurses. Andy, did you want to go over that one?
Yeah, sure. That's the Schedule A nurse petition, and it sounds like it used to be faster than it is now, and it sounds like a great carve out in the law, which is what it was intended to be, to get these nurses that are needed into these positions that just can't be filled by U.S. workers. We don't have enough nurses to fill all the jobs. But unfortunately, what's happened is the timing of these has become protracted. So the Schedule A nurse is basically recognizing the national nursing shortage and carving out a category which falls under EB3 for nurses to come into the U.S. In a green card status. So it's very frequently through the Philippines or something like that. People are brought in. Unfortunately, the petition and application process can take, a year and a half, 2 years. And then once the nurse, so the petition and that process, and then processing the visa at the consulate and having their ability to come in, it can take several years. So while it is an important program and helpful, it is not a short-term solution. And so really nurses have to, employers have to think about how to be creative with an H-1B if they can't make use of a TN to get those nurses here. I think we should also address if there's any new challenges or policy trends that we've seen, other than, what we've already talked about with further processing times. Ruth, what else have you seen pop up with the physicians and nurses that causes concern with travel or anything like that?
Yeah, in terms of processing times, just that there is the possibility that, we may see greater backlogs. So there may be delays in that respect. When traveling, we're just telling clients whenever they're traveling abroad to ensure that they have their 797 approval notice, copies of their latest pay statements to show maintenance of status, just to be prepared, have all the documentation they need in case they are questioned at all by CBP upon reentry. They have all their ducks in a row to feel comfortable when traveling. So I think that's important. And if they have any concerns or they think there may be some red flags from their past travels or past history, it's important for them to speak with their attorney, their immigration attorney, to ensure whether or not it's best to travel at that time or not.
Right. And the timing issues we often see pop up, I know that you and I have talked about, Ruth, is, when you have a physician who's waiting for a waiver to come through and maybe is from a country where it's difficult to travel and get that visa that's needed, or to time the H-1B so that they can get it in time on the heels of their program. So all, not just in the healthcare aspect, but in all employer-based immigration right now, the most sort of pressing issue is with travel, because it's prolonged, delayed, and less transparent than it used to be. So it could be delayed just to get a visa appointment, and then it's not transparent as to how long the issuance of the visas or any administrative processing might take. So somebody who's working here and wants to continue on without having that travel interruption, if they have to go through a U.S. consulate that's not as friendly or is very busy and backlogged, that can become one of the trickier issues with all of these cases, really. But again, the more things change, the more they stay the same, right? It's sort of the same situation, that we've always been in, and the same visa options are available. I think, I don't know about you, Ruth, but I think if I were talking to my clients, healthcare employers, whoever they are, it just means you have to plan further ahead, and you have to be more informed as an employer, even when you're doing your recruiting, so that you can, address that sort of timeline and those concerns with the physician or the nurse or the radiologist or the lab tech that you really need. What is the realistic time frame, and what is the need there, and then what are the options? So I think you just, as an employer, would have to think a good 3 to 5 years, ahead all the time, about just the types of employees you need, and also the particular people you have in those positions, how to support them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, having if the employer is interested in sponsoring for the green card at some point, having that conversation early on, and, notifying the beneficiary that that's something they want to do for them, goes a long way in terms of showing, the beneficiary will have loyalty to the employer that way, if they're helping them with that process. So that's important to discuss at an early point.
Right. So final thoughts here. Let's see. As far as advocating for better legislation, that's been a topic near and dear to my heart, and a lot of people for a long time. And there's been a lot of the same bills bouncing around Congress for years. I don't see anything moving on that anytime soon. So I think we're going to have the options we've always had, for the time being anyway. What do you think, Ruth?
Yeah, you're our legislation guru in terms of knowing the latest on that. But I think, it's important, given that there has been such need and shortages, that's something that really should be focused on, in giving support and hoping that something moves forward at some point.
Right, exactly. So, for whoever's listening out there, if you have comments or questions, you can post them and let us know, and we're happy to answer any of those questions.
Yeah, I don't see anything right now in the comment section, but you can contact us. Our emails are on the firm website. You can reach out directly to us if you have any healthcare related questions or matters you wanted to discuss. We'd be happy to help. We're really happy that you guys joined us today, and feel free to follow us on our social media platforms. We have a lot. And I think that's it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ruth, and thanks everybody. All right.